Unfortunately, Yahweh did used to demand child sacrifice, but you don't have to take my word for it. Let's follow your own advice and read some of the Christian Bible together, shall we? And for continuity's sake, we are going to be using the King James Version today. The first passage we're going to be looking at today is Exodus chapter 22, verses 29 and 30, which essentially reads, "The firstborn of your sons you shall give unto me. Likewise you shall do with your sheep and your oxen. 7 days they will be with their mother, and on the 8th you will give it to me." Now, of course, you can read in between the lines and come up with some sort of alternate meaning for what you think "give unto me" might have meant. But this is a law that is being given. This is covenant that is being given. They're not going to leave room for interpretation, for people to read in between the lines when it comes to law. And it was clear that those animals were meant for sacrifice. And there is absolutely no implication that these human firstborns were to be treated any differently. Now, moving on to Ezekiel chapter 20, verses 25 and 26, where Ezekiel says that God told him, and I quote, "Wherefore I gave them statutes that were not good, and judgments they should not live by. And I polluted them in their own gifts, in that they caused to pass through the fire all that opened the womb, that I might make them desolate, to the end that they might know that I am the Lord." And essentially in this verse, Yahweh is saying, my bad. I used to ask for this because, I wanted them to know that I was the Lord. I wanted to dominate them, but my bad. And elsewhere in the book of Ezekiel, we see this topic being discussed, like in chapter 16, chapter 23, where this concept of passing them through fire, passing children through fire, is repeatedly mentioned. Now, in Ezekiel 20, 25, and 26, and in Ezekiel 16, 21, these verses, you see "pass through fire" in italics. And this is essentially showing that it is a translation, a best translation that can be offered for the original word that was there in the original Hebrew Bible. And the original word found in Ezekiel in the original Hebrew was molech. Now, molech originally was a Hebrew word that referred to a type of sacrifice that involved passing something, a child, an animal, through fire. A type of sacrifice through burning. And then we see later translations changing this to sacrifice to idols instead of passing through fire, because this concept of a pagan deity named Moloch was created to sort of hide the original meaning and the original context of Moloch, which was Yahweh demanding child sacrifice. Now, of course, this has not painted the Christian God in a very positive light, so there are scholars, theologians who have looked for alternate ways to look at these verses, different interpretations that they've, put forth into the world, and whatever. But it's not an audacious claim to take these verses at face value and accept that Yahweh probably used to demand child sacrifice. And we're not even getting into the other stories that involve Yahweh and child sacrifice, like Abraham in Genesis 22 and Japheth in Judges 11.